So now we're going to have a chat with Ellouise Simpson, who's a registered specialist diabetes dietitian. Hi, Ellouise.
Hi, Joan. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, thank you for joining us. It's fantastic to have you with us because we all know the scenario. We go to a party or we're going round to our auntie's house. Like our auntie's like the best cook in the family and she knows it. So she's put out that spread for the festive season. She's, pulled out all the stops. Here's the table that
Mm.
faces you when you go in.
Oh,
So
wow.
as a person living with diabetes, how are you going to manage this and what might your strategy be? What would you
Yeah.
suggest?
Yeah. So the first thing I would say is to enjoy your spread. Have a look, take in the aroma of all of the wonderful foods, and also be thankful that you've been invited. Would you agree, Joan?
Yes, I think so. Especially when Auntie knows that she's such a good cook.
Definitely, definitely. But I think if we're looking at this from a diabetes standpoint, the first thing would be to let's identify there are different types of diabetes. So, predominantly we have type 1 and we have type 2. And many people have different personal goals in regards to their diabetes journey and what they're trying to achieve. So if someone who is navigating type 2, for example, I would say, as I said, take in the aroma, but then to have a look at the table when you're seated. And I don't want this to be a stressful practice either. It's just having a look and identifying the different food groups that are there. Okay. So, you have your carbohydrates, you have your proteins, you have your fats, and then you also have your vegetables. And some of our traditional vegetables, or a lot of our traditional vegetables, should I say, do fall within the carbohydrate section. And as we probably all know, carbohydrates, once digested, converts into sugar. So we want to ensure that we are keeping that at an adequate and moderate portion.
So we're talking about those vegetables which are more carbohydrate laden, if I can call it that, like
Yeah.
plantain, sweet potato, yam, those sorts of vegetables.
Yes, definitely. And I don't want to demonize any of them because they are great. They're packed with great vitamins and minerals. Um, I I believe what it is a lot of the time we'll have all of those on our plate, plus the rice, plus the roast potatoes that I can see there, and then macaroni cheese, and all of that converts into sugar once it's digested. So we just have to be mindful of that. Yeah.
I think it's really important what you said as well about being mindful, because I think maybe this isn't the right term to use, but sometimes, well, maybe I'll talk for myself. Sometimes I do mindless eating.
Mm.
And I think, to be mindful of what's on that wonderful table, what's on our plate is a really important point.
Yeah, and also, you're surrounded by loved ones, friends, family. There may be music playing, you're having a great time, having a laugh. And it can be unconscious eating. So it's sort of pass the plate round, pass the dish round. I'll have a bit of this, I'll have a bit of that. And before you know it, your plate is packed with a lot of carbohydrates there. And I always say, Christmas is one day. There's going to be many other days. You're going to have Christmas, you're going to have birthdays, christenings, baptisms, baby, and we can go on where there's going to be this great food again. So it's just being mindful of that. So we've talked about the carbohydrates, so being aware of that. But then it would also be great if you could, find the vegetables, if there is any, okay, and try and make that be the show of your plate. Make that be the star of your plate, I should say, and maybe try and see if you could have half a plate of vegetables, which means by having more of that, you're going to have less of something else.
I think that's a really good strategy because Auntie's going to want your plate to be full. The
Yes.
likelihood is, yeah. So
Yes. Yes.
if we fill that plate with half of the plate of vegetables, it will still
Mm-hmm.
be full. Everybody will be happy. Everybody
Yeah.
will be enjoying themselves, and you may feel that that is the healthiest choice for you.
Yeah. And then you're not going to feel like you're missing out, are you? You know, if you imagine if you had a plate and you've only got a small amount of food and there's lots of plate left that you could see, I could assume that there's going to be lots of people giving side eye thinking, you know, why is your plate so empty? But fibre, you know, having a lot of vegetable comes along with a lot of fibre. And there's loads of benefits from eating a high fibre diet with diabetes. So it's a win-win. Auntie's happy, you're happy.
And you mentioned about carbohydrates. So the other food groups?
Yeah, so we've also got the so I didn't touch on this actually. We mentioned the vegetables, which a lot of the vegetables that we consume have a lot of starch in them. But also it's how it's prepared. So if you've got, I don't know, let's say okra and it's been fried, I'm not recommending having half a plate of fried okra. You know, you can have some of that, but maybe try and see if there's any steamed vegetables and things like that. Then you've got your protein. So I think I can see on the slide some sort of curry, could be curry mutton, not too sure what the guy is holding in his hand. And then you've got chicken, which looks like it's fried there. So if you've got half of your plate of vegetables, then you've got another half left. So if you divide that up, then you've got a quarter of your plate which you can designate to your protein. And again, if you just stick within that ratio, you're going to find that it's going to really help to balance those blood sugars. And then the last quarter is going to be the carbohydrates. So I am recommended doing this how can I put it? Visually, that's the word. Visually, I don't want you to sort of start with drawing on your plate, but visually, just divide your plate up that way.
Yeah. So about a quarter of the plate with the carbohydrates, and not to stack it too high.
Yeah, like a molehill. No,
Ellouise,
no.
you've been there. I've been there. We've seen it.
We've all been there.
Yes, we don't want to stack it too high either. So that's really brilliant advice.
Yeah.
You know, so you can be there enjoying it with the family, with friends.
Exactly.
Nobody feels that you're missing out. You don't feel that you're missing out. But you've been able to make the choices that you wanted to. Having that knowledge about the different food groups,
yes,
having that sort of balance in terms of still having all your food groups on there, and then some portion control as well.
Some portion control.
Yeah, just, you know, but not, as you say, not sort of getting a ruler out and measuring it, but just on the plate. So
exactly,
what comes after? It's the afters, it's the desserts, it's the puddings.
Yes.
I mean, that's not at the end of it, is it?
They do look nice. Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, again, education is so important, isn't it? You know, knowledge is the foundation of everything. So understanding, you know, how some of these foods may have been made and what they contain would be quite helpful. Okay, because I can see there's some fried food there, there's some cakes, and I can see there's cream on one of the cakes there. And I think that what's really important is we've got to understand there's got to be a balance in your life. You know, when you have a lot of people live with diabetes for a long time, yeah, so there's got to be a balance. And there's no special diet for someone living with diabetes. There's no can have list or can't have list. It's all about knowledge, as I've said before. So long story short, what I'm saying is if you do want to have a dessert, you can have a dessert. But how much dessert are you going to choose to have?
Not all of those.
There you go.
On the same plate.
There you go. If you do choose to have all of those, you know, you are going to be really full. But one of the recommendations that I normally say to people, if you're going to have a cake, a slice of cake, for example, say it's a circular cake, and using your thumb to be the width of the back of the cake, the slice that you choose, that's a good way of just sort of eyeballing it and thinking, right, yeah, that's wide enough. I'll have enough of that. Or then it's maybe thinking of little strategies that are going to help you along the way. So if it's sort of cake or an ice cream or trifle or something like that, using a smaller spoon, you know, and savouring every moment rather than talking to the family members before you know you finished it and you didn't realise you were eating. you know. So yeah, it's portion control, moderation, and finding that balance. But Joan, what I would say is sometimes we do have to think about our own personal goals, and we have to make decisions that support your own goals and your own health and well-being. So there may come a time over the festive season where you think to yourself, do I really want that? Do I really need that? Or am I happy to just pass on this one?
Yeah, because the chocolates can be by every chair, all these things, the biscuits, all these special biscuits come
Yeah.
out all of a sudden around this time. And yeah,
Yes.
it's about trying to decide, as you said, what's important for you,
Yeah.
um, and not alienating yourself, but
Yeah.
doing that within the context of your family, your friends, the people that you're spending that
Yeah.
time with. So with the thumb, because I've got quite long fingers, are we
Have
talking about,
you?
yeah. So are we talking about just the tip of your thumb?
No, so it's sort of the whole yeah, because if you think of a slice of cake, a lot of the time, if it's a gatto or that's quite old school, isn't it? A gatto, or a Christmas cake or something like that. Sometimes the slices can be really thick. If auntie's cutting it as well, they can be they can be really thick. So that it's just a guide though. We use the hand as a guide for a lot of things as dietitians. So for carbohydrate, it might just be what sits in the palm of your hand. That is your portion. And these are just strategies to help people along the way, so they're not having to pack the scales in their bag when they're going to parties. So yeah, it's just a guide. It's just a guide. And if that's bigger than what you normally have, don't go with my advice. Stick with what you normally have.
So thanks so much, Eloise. And so you've been to Auntie's for the
Mm,
big day, then you're going to your parents, then
yes.
you're going out with your friends, then
Mhm.
you've got the office works party. How do you navigate all of these different things? Because this is the time.
Yes. So if you have um, so many events coming up, it may be important to sit down and just have a look at the diary and have a look at all the invitations that you have. Okay. And work out, how are you going to navigate your nutrition within this time, because it's Christmas season, and a lot of the time Christmas spans from maybe the 1st of December all the way. We've even got New Year parties, haven't we? And well, if it happens, but we've got events that happen then, which means you could have a full month of eating foods that are quite rich, high in fat, high in salt, and you just wouldn't normally eat those foods. So I normally say it's having a look at your day, okay? Because it's not just about that event that may start in the evening, it's the full day. What are you going to have for breakfast today? And then what are you going to have for lunch? It might be you're scaling it back for some of your other meals, knowing that you're going to have a dinner which is richer than normal. Okay. And then it's setting those boundaries, setting those boundaries when you're out and about, and trying to stick to them, make them realistic as well. You're going to choose to have 2 courses, maybe your mains and it may be a dessert, but you're going to choose not to have the starter and have 3-4 courses. So yeah, it's boundaries, and also just knowing your goal. Again, going back to the second question, I would say.
Yeah. And the same applies for snacks, presumably. So, I mean, because there's lots of
Mm.
those around at this time as well, isn't there?
There is, and maybe some of the snacks you just choose not to have. Yeah, because as I've said before, there are loads of events you're going to. You're going around the family members, all of your family, and they all want you to eat. Like, it's a cultural thing, isn't it? You can't go and say, no, that's all right, I'm full. A lot of the time, an elder might take it as an offence. So it's knowing how to have a portion, and then maybe just saying, could I have a smaller portion, or helping out in the kitchen and sharing your own portion out. It's little tricks, little strategies that are going to help you along the way to ensure that you're not overeating. Yeah, and you're not overeating and also causing more harm than good, because then in the new year you're going to have to manage the consequences of a full month of overindulging.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Ellouise. That's been brilliant. It's been
Yeah.
fantastic to hear your
Thank you.
tips. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I mean, can I add one others? Because I haven't touched on this, and it's all to do with drinks. So within the festive season, you know, there are, again, drinks that you don't normally have. It could be sorrel, it could be ginger beer, it could be all sorts. Try and opt for ones that are lower in sugar or have no sugar, because we can really drink quite a lot of our calories, and that's not what we don't want that.
Yeah. The other thing about drinks is as well to make sure that you're hydrated and you're drinking a lot of water, because that will also help to make you feel a bit fuller, won't it? So you
Definitely.
don't tend to overeat as much. Been
Yeah.
brilliant, Ellouise. Thank you so much.
That's fine. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.